and just the culture in which you're brought up in, you know, because there are people who maybe at home they are sort of shouted at when they do ask questions and so on. But because they spend a lot of time at a school that affirms them or around friends that affirm them, or they do extramural activities that affirm them, their confidence and so on, they develop that skill of asking questions or being sort of, I don't want to say extroverted because you can be extroverted and shy, but are not sort of shy or reclusive, you know? You guys don't believe that?
No,
we do.
Because I feel like I'm also like that. I'm also extroverted but shy at the same time.
Yeah.
Hey. Shit. Yeah. So I've been doing my shit. I'm just really trying to blow. Race against time, but I'm really riding slow. You be slowing me down, that's the thing, my bro. Looking at my homies who the realest I don't know. Even the closest looking like the furthest from me.
Yeah, we're ready. Everyone ready? You ready? Okay. What's good, my niggas? It's your boy B, you know, on another episode of the Elusive podcast.
So
Straight out the East, baby.
Do you guys re-record?
No, one
you
take.
can laugh. You can laugh.
Okay.
One take, you know.
It's now or never.
Got my nigga Kadibo.
Yo, it's your boy K_LIBO. Back with another episode, you know the vibes. Special guest.
I feel like you guys say that with everyone.
So
Which
that
is
doesn't
fine.
make you feel special.
No, I still feel special. It's fine.
How are you, Karabelo? Please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Karabelo. I am a psychologist, registered psychologist and lecturer. And yeah, I'm here with Bushe and Caleb
Thank you for
on
coming.
the Elusive podcast.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming through.
Yeah. So before we get to psychology, we want to know like your journey, like how did you get there, you know, from like early age, you know, like tell us your story. We want to know more about like you.
Sure. Okay. Like right at the beginning.
If you want to, if, you know, we want the juicy stories of your come up.
There is no juice. But I think, so I grew up in the East Rand, Kotsakane. I was raised by
Really?
Yeah.
Tsakane?
Yeah.
You didn't know that?
I didn't know that. I thought you were like Davidson or something. I don't know. Christopher.
Tsakane.
Imagine, and you took taxis, ne, to Pinoni High.
I did.
That's like 3 taxis, ne?
It was iLocal and then a taxi to
Duzarang.
No. iLocal takes you to Duzarang. And then from the Duzarang you take a Lakeside. And then Lakeside to Northmead. Yeah.
Yes, 3.
So that was 3. But then, so that was later high school. I think, so grade 8, I stayed with my sister. So they would, she would drop me off.
Yeah.
Or I would walk because they stayed quite close. And then grade 9 and 10, I was in transport. So I would just incubate transport.
Oh.
And then grade 11 and 12, when I thought I was smart, I started taking taxis.
Oh, it was your decision.
Yeah, no, it was my
okay,
decision.
okay.
So I had the option to stay in a transport. But I think I just decided
Yeah.
I wanna, you know, be
Explore
like
a little
everyone
bit.
else.
Yeah. Was
Yeah.
it because like, you know, there were troubles like at your sisters or?
No, not at all. So, as I was saying, I was raised by my grandmother, right?
Yeah.
So, primary school, first 4 years of primary school, I stayed with my grandmother at home. And then from
Tsakane.
and then from grade 5 till grade 8, I stayed with my sister.
Pinoni.
So we had to move a lot, quite a bit, because I think she was also like young, you know, so
Yeah.
she was also just trying to figure out where she wanted to stay, where she wanted to raise her kids. So there was a time we stayed in Boksburg, and then there was a time we stayed in Benoni. So when I was in Boksburg, I went to primary school in Boksburg. And then when we moved to Benoni, I went to Benoni High. And the main reason why I stayed with her is because obviously, like, you know how homework gets quite difficult when you reach grade 4 and 5.
Yeah.
So my mom was like, no, let me just stay with my sister, and then at least they could help me with homework because she's got more time and so on. And I mean, my grand was quite old.
Yeah.
So that's why I moved with my sister. So again, my mom was staying in Mpumalanga because that's where she worked. And then grade 9, my mom got a transfer to Gauteng. My mom's a teacher. She got a transfer to Gauteng. And then when she came back this side, I naturally then went to live with her. So really, it's not because there was like troubles or anything. It was just the best decision in terms of like my education, because my mom really does. I think my whole life was just centered around my education. Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
You know, it was about if I'm going to have a good school and who's going to help me with homework. So that's essentially where most of the decisions came from. Okay, you need help with homework, go stay with your sister. I'm back now. Okay, you can come stay here. There's transport to take you to your school. You'll take transport. And then I just decided, like grade 11-ish, that, okay, I think I want to take transport. Yeah.
So when you like...
That's essentially how it played out.
Since you stayed far, right? Because Takane is like quite a distance from like
it's
Benoni.
far.
So would you get to school late sometimes or like...
Actually, no.
Really?
I would just wake up really early. So I was always tired.
Oh.
That's the only thing.
What time?
I think there was a time we would wake up at like 4:30.
Yo,
And this was like
high school.
early, like late primary school. No, yeah, like high school, because late primary school I was staying at home with my sister. So yeah, I would wake up like 4:30. That's the earliest I remember waking up. But I mean, there comes a time where you sort of just learn the tricks and you sort of wake up at like 5. And then you know, but you won't have breakfast because you're fine with not having breakfast. But I think the first time when I moved back home, it's Akane, to like travel to Benoni via taxi. I think the earliest I'd have to wake up is like 4:30. And school started quite early. Wasn't it like 7:30 or 7:45?
Yeah, I think it was 7. Yeah, 7:45.
So to make it on time, I would wake up really early. I don't think I was ever late. If I was ever late, I think it was actually when I used to take a transport.
Yeah. So you very punctual.
I am actually.
But you were late today. I'm joking.
But I communicate. You know what? I think if there's anything I learned during that time is punctuality.
I was actually about to say that.
I really do keep time, so much so that it irks me when people don't keep time, but I've had to learn to just be fine with it. And at least I communicate when I'm running late.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's sort of where my story started. Like I said, a lot of my childhood was just, I focused a lot on school, and only because that's what was sort of drilled in me. So I didn't really do that many extramural activities, actually. I know there was a time I played like netball, but then that stopped.
Were you good at it?
No, I just played. I think I was in the B team.
Oh,
or
yeah.
even like a reserve,
Yo.
if I even made the team. But I just played for the sake of playing with. So I played
Participation.
netball. Yeah, participation. I did choir at some point.
Yeah, I think you were into like those kind of things, right?
Yeah, I did choir, but even that didn't last. I think I did it for like 2 years.
But you seem like you can sing. Your voice is like really sweet, like light. You know?
I mean, I can hold a note.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hold a note. I know where you're taking this.
Nah, I'm not gonna make you say it. Because
Everyone's so used to us making you say something.
But I can't sing. if that's the question, no, I can't.
Yeah.
I did choir. And yeah, that was about it. I didn't really do that many extramural activities, not that I can remember. But school was really it, like just do well and take it from there. But even though I didn't participate in a lot of extramural activities, I was exposed to like a lot of cultural stuff. So like my sister was really into the arts. So whenever she would like go watch theater and stuff in Joburg, she would take me. Umpumi was a drama student. So she did drama in high school. So I'd always go watch her plays. So I was very much interested in like cultural extramural activities. And I think that's sort of where my interest in people and people's stories came from. And even like at home, so my gran, she was a devout like church mom, you know. So they used to do like outreach at the old age home at Akane. And whenever they would go there, sometimes I would go with her. I would go with her to church. So even there I would be exposed to like people. I was always that child who followed like either my gran or my aunt or my sister. So whatever they were doing, I was there with them. So in that way, I always got interested in like people's stories, people's lives really. And which was so funny because I grew up like a very like quiet child.
Yeah, you were.
I was.
Stop this shy.
I was, you know, and people don't believe this.
Even
I was
us,
like,
actually.
really? I was like always the quiet friend, the shy friend. But then once I connect with you, it's gone.
Yeah,
You know, once I connect with you, I can like have very meaningful conversations with you. And I think that's what drew me to people. Like once I know a person's story, or once I sort of connect with someone on something, it's just like, okay, fine, we're cool. Let's chat it out.
You seem like a nurturer. You got like a very nurturing kind of spirit.
Really?
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll take that. I think I am quite nurturing though as well. Like if I think of my relationship with like my nieces and nephews, I hold them like very dear to my heart. So I personally see myself nurturing in that sense. But I'd never really thought about it.
And I think it's actually good to have that kind of spirit in your line of work too.
Yeah.
Because most people can open up to someone who's like that, you know?
I think it does come, actually now that you say it does come in handy also with like my line of work, as you said, because it helps you connect with people and see people for who they are. You know, you're able to sort of see underneath the mask. And that's usually why people reach out, you know, to be seen, to be heard. And I guess, it does sort of help in that. Yeah.
So knowing what you know, like psychology, I don't know if like you know, but like why do you think people are shy?
Why people are shy? Wow. I don't think there's like an exact answer, but when I look at human beings, I look at people in context. So it might be a number of things. Their temperament, like are they naturally like quite shy or reserved and not outspoken, and how they respond to like people being around them or stimulation from other people. It could also be your upbringing, you know, for example, if you were raised being told that as a child, you know, yours is to be seen and not heard, then you'll naturally sort of hold back and not necessarily voice your opinions and so on if your opinions aren't accepted. But it really could be a multiple of things. It's not to say it's just your upbringing or just your temperament or your biology or physiology. So it's a mixture of things.
You've actually got a point, actually. Because with, you know that whole thing of like, you can't ask questions or you're scared to ask questions in class if you don't understand something.
Yeah.
Apparently, it stems from also home. Whenever you ask questions, maybe like your mom shouts at you or your dad shouts at you. So even when you get to school, or like a different setting, you can't ask questions because you're just so used to like being shouted at, or you know, so you become quiet.
Received well.
It's not received
or
well.
Even if you do ask questions, but then the questions you ask are perceived as like stupid or whatnot, you know, then that will over time sort of stop you from asking questions. Yeah. So I think it's a mixture of things, but definitely your like upbringing can be one of them. And just the culture in which you're brought up in, you know, because there are people who maybe at home, they are sort of shouted at when they do ask questions and so on. But because they spend a lot of time at a school that affirms them or around friends that affirm them, or they do extramural activities that affirm them, their confidence and so on, they develop that skill of asking questions or being sort of, I don't want to say extroverted because you can be extroverted and shy. But are not sort of shy or reclusive, you know. You guys don't believe that?
No,
we do.
Because I feel like I'm also like that. I'm also extroverted but shy at the same time.
So it depends on a number of things, but a number of things really.
One thing I want to know is, I don't know how to ask this, but like, why do human beings love pain? Like, it seems like, for example, maybe when it comes to like women and men, right? It seems like women are more attracted to men who bring them pain than like a normal guy who's just trying to like, I don't know.
Who's gonna do everything
Who's gonna do
you
everything for you.
and treat you like a queen, put you on a pedestal.
The one who doesn't respond, like, after 4 days is the one that you want. As opposed to someone who's always like, you know, I don't know. Maybe it's just my observation. I could be wrong. But yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily loving pain. Maybe it's just because I think things happen in patterns, right? So if you are consistently in relationships where you sort of have to work hard for attention, or you only get affection when you do something wrong, like you don't respond to a message or whatever the case is, that you sort of normalize that as that's what a relationship should be. So you would most likely only seek those type of relationships because that's what you know. So I don't necessarily think it's a matter of liking pain, but we're creatures of habit. So things that we're used to, if you know the outcome, if you know sort of the reaction that you will get from the person, even if it's not a desirable sort of response, but because you know what to expect, you're more likely to go for that as opposed to something that could be good for you. So I think it's really just a matter of habit most times. Yeah, but then also if you look at it in terms of like relationships, you know, patriarchy and so on, things being normalized,
patriarchy definitely.
You know, you can unpack it even further, but I think ultimately it could also be just a matter of following habits. Yeah. Because I don't think I don't think that human beings like pain. I don't think we were designed to
like
look
pain,
for
to enjoy
pain. Yeah, you know. Because if you look at it like just physiologically, whenever you hurt yourself, your automatic response is to like never do that again.
Go back there, yeah.
You know, and this is like taking the psychology away. Just physiologically, you wouldn't want to put yourself in a situation that will cause you harm. So I don't think it's a matter of liking pain, but rather that if maybe you put your hand on the stove and every time you put your hand on the stove, someone claps for you and reinforces that behavior or reinforces that pattern of behavior, then you're going to think it's fine. And if what you're looking for is reinforcement, you're going to keep doing it. So I don't think it's necessarily looking for pain, but then again, you'd have to sort of look at that individual, their history and so on. Yeah.
So it's different for everyone, basically.
Ultimately it is, because also, you know, especially when it comes to relationships or abusive relationships, you know, there's stuff like trauma bonding, where it's not necessarily that you are attracted to that person because they cause you trauma or because they cause you pain, but because your relationship with that person is it causes so much trauma for you, and you sort of see trauma as love or see pain as being loved. That's the only way you receive love.
That's true.
But that's crazy, because there's this girl who was burnt by the Forex guy, like the very pretty
Karabelo.
Yeah. Because I was looking at a story, and she was actually an activist against abuse against women, you know. She was an activist, but then she became a victim of it. But the irony is that she stayed there. Like, she was being abused before, like many times by the same guy, but she kept going back. So,
I saw that story. Even the last time when he burned her, she had left. They'd broken up, and then they met at a club, and then she went home with him.
Yeah.
Sure, that's really sad. I didn't follow that story, but I do remember there was that whole thing. I can't speak to that. I don't think it would be fair to speak to that, because that's a very unique situation. But what I can say is that sometimes, especially in relationships that are violent, you know, whether it's like verbal abuse, physical abuse, whatever the case is, as the victim or victims usually do believe that the perpetrator would change, mainly because there was a time when the perpetrator wasn't abusive or wasn't aggressive towards them, and they held on to that, you know, and there's that hope that this person that you know as this thing will go back to that, and this is just like a one-time incident, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
But again, with abusive relationships, it's very layered. It's you take it on a case-by-case situation, because you never really know the depths of a person's relationship with their partner, whether that partner is abusive or whatever the case is. Yeah.
But don't you guys think that everyone is going to hurt you, but like there's like a threshold to like how much they should do, or like, because I think not every relationship is perfect. Like people do have like ups and downs and like maybe fights every now and then, but like there's just like certain things that you can't do, like no matter what.
Yeah.
I think that's even outside of relationships, like even with your friends, your family, whatever the case is, you know, there's a certain level of hurt that you don't necessarily deal with, but you build a tolerance against, you know, and not to say that's the right way to go about it, right? But then there comes situations where that threshold, like you said, is just like surpassed. But again, it depends on the value you put to the relationship. So for example, someone that you met just yesterday, if they come and swear at you, you probably won't take it to heart because you don't value that person. They probably don't mean much to you or your life. Whereas if Ubuhle comes and swears at you, it takes a completely different meaning because you guys are friends, you sort of have a history together, you've placed Ubuhle at a certain pedestal in your life, you know, and that's why in that case you might be more tolerant to Ubuhle swearing at you as compared to the other person. Egbeni, they've said the same thing, you know. So that's why I say you can't speak blanketly, like on using a blanket statement for when it comes to like relationships, because people perceive people firstly very differently, and people put very different values to their relationships, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a romantic relationship, whether it's like a family situation.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Your knowledge on these things is so profound. Do you think it's because of your studies, or like you've always been that person like who's wise and you know?
Well, I wish.
Yeah.
No, I think yes, because I obviously studied for so long, and I studied in such a specific area. Like I just did psychology from undergrad all the way to postgrad. So in that sense, yes. But I think also living in South Africa, you are exposed to a lot of things. And I think to a certain extent, lived experiences also contribute to how the knowledge sort of becomes practical for me. You know, so for example, if someone told me about a person who experienced depression because of unemployment, you know, I would be able to sort of empathize with that a bit more because I've been around people who've been unemployed, you know.
And you also were
at some point I was unemployed, you know. So I think just lived experiences do also help you to sort of internalize the knowledge a bit. So I don't think it's because I'm just naturally smart. But I am smart, but I'm not like a know-it-all.
Yeah. Tell us about like because like we already like searching for information about all these things, but you haven't spoken to us about like your actual years of studying and how many years you did and your qualifications and what you studied. So please tell us about that.
So I did a Bachelor of Arts. So all my degrees are from the University of Pretoria, so I won't keep saying at UP.
Yeah.
So I did a Bachelor of Arts, which is 3 years. And my Bachelor of Arts was, I did psych as one of my modules. So I did psych, sociology, and anthropology, and social work for 1 semester. And then all the way to 3rd year, I only had psychology and sociology. And then in my honors year, then I went straight into my honors year where I just did psychology. So all my modules were related to psychology. And then I did my master's straight after that in counseling psychology, and that was 2 years. So first year was just coursework, so coursework the whole year, and then second year is an internship. So you do an internship where you basically are a intern psychologist, right? So you provide psychological services under supervision, of course, and that's essentially where a lot of your practical experience sort of is. Yeah, that's where all the groundwork is done during your internship. I mean, yes, during M1, which is the first year of masters, you do a bit of practical work, but I think internship, especially for me and where I did my internship, was where a lot of my foundation was laid. So I did my internship at a child orphanage home, but it had a therapy and assessment center there. Okay. So what we would do is we would offer psychotherapy and assessment for the children on the village, but then we were also providing those same services to the neighboring schools and the child welfare organization. So once a week I would be at a school, and then once a week I'd be at the welfare. And then the other days I would be at the village where the children were. So I think that for me also just sort of opened my eyes into the type of work I want to do. I really enjoy working with children, young people, and so on. And I think that's where it really came from. So yeah, I did that. And then now I just recently started my PhD in psych.
Wow. So you're going to be a doctor soon?
Doctor. I received that.
We have to.
You have to. Yo, that's huge, bro.
That. So yeah, I really did spend most of my 20s studying. And I think because of the nature of psychology, so you can't be a registered psychologist without going all the way to masters. And I was fortunate enough to do one after the other because it gets quite competitive. People struggle to get into like your honors and especially the master's program. So I was very fortunate to like make it through all the way, one after the other.
On record time?
So my master's wasn't on record time. So master's is 2 years and I took 2.5 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I took 2.5 years because of my research. Hey guys, research.
Yeah, research is not easy.
Research, but it all happened the way it was supposed to happen. It all happened the way it was supposed to happen. And then after my internship, I was home for a year. And then that's when I then left afterwards to go start practicing and doing other things.
So now you're a lecturer, right?
Yes, at Rhodes.
Oh, okay.
So I started lecturing at Rhodes last year, 2022. And I've actually been enjoying that. I always thought I would go into academia like later on. So I started lecturing last year. And it's so funny how that happened because I honestly thought I would start with practice before. I did always want to go into academia. Funny enough, I actually wanted to be a teacher.
For real?
Yeah.
Like your mom?
But my mom said no. I did want to be a teacher at some stage. So I thought I would go into academia like much later on in my life. Because that's what I thought academia was most. That's where you sort of go to like end off your career. But funny enough, I got an opportunity to go last year. And I've been enjoying it. So much so that now I'm doing practice part-time and academia full-time. And I always thought it would be the other way around. So I'm lecturing psych, undergrad and postgrad, but because of the nature of the program I'm on, so I'm on the NGAP program, which is what I'm doing my PhD through, I don't do like a full load of teaching. So I'm only doing like 20% teaching, but I think it was the perfect way to enter into academia because it gave me a taste of what my career in academia could be and how I can sort of start designing it to suit me and my lifestyle and the type of life I want to live. Because in as much as I did always want to do academia, I don't think it's the only thing I want to do. Yeah, I do definitely still want to practice. And even with practice, I don't just want to do the whole one-on-one thing. So because of the flexibility of academia, I'm glad I got to see it now because I don't have to sort of like put it on the back burner for later. And I can still do all the other things I'm interested in.
Don't you get like, since you're a lecturer, don't you get like disrespect while you're lecturing, or maybe after or before, like by the
Problematic
students?
students and whatnot.
You know, I was worried that I would experience that, especially as a young lecturer. But I haven't. And I'm so grateful I haven't. And I teach first years. So I'm a 2K, you know? And I think at most disrespect, the most disrespect I would get is them probably like using TikTok lingo in a lecture hall. Like I remember the one time I told them that they would have an assignment and I gave them the assignment date. And they were like, "Welele," but that was it. And fortunately, because I am on TikTok and I see these things, I knew it wasn't necessarily disrespect. It's just how they, I guess, express themselves. But I haven't experienced like disrespect from them.
Do they make on you?
I think I also don't create that platform. Like I go to the lecture hall and go back to my office and I only see them during consultations. And that's it. But guys, I don't know. Amatuke are very respectful.
But I think it's also like,
Yeah, but
no. maybe nafana no like non can humble and you know, like non can try psychology.
But I think
funny enough,
I think
though,
also
sorry.
No,
it's not just so, especially with the first year module. So with a first year psych, it's like very like entry level psych, so anyone can do it. In fact, a lot of the people in my lectures are like from other disciplines. So there's people from like your sciences, your commerce, and so on. So it's not just people who want to do psych.
Because I also did it in second year, actually. Yeah.
Really?
Did you enjoy it?
I didn't actually, because I think it's because of the teacher. Like I think the teacher plays a huge role. Like the lecturer plays a huge role in like how well you do, you know. Yeah, and
like you didn't enjoy the content as well.
I think I kind of did, but I was confused. I didn't understand it. But I think I'd do well if, like, you know, maybe I had a good lecturer, because, like, I enjoy that type of stuff, you know. Oh, what's it good?
Yeah, Rhodes boy.
You enjoy it.
What I wanted to say is that I think also with you, maybe you create like boundaries with students, like, you know, because you do get like those lecturers or those teachers who are a bit like too comfortable with the students. Too open. That's when people maybe try and like, you know.
And you know what? It's so easy to fall into that because you also want to be approachable. You know, you don't want your students to like be afraid of you and feel like they can never come ask you questions. But yes, it is also equally important to put those boundaries in place. And boundaries are flexible, right? Well, some boundaries are flexible. No, wait. Flexible in the sense that I have consultation hours, right? You come see me during my consultation hours. But I know, of course, like closer to exam dates, closer to assignment submissions, students get quite like panicky and they get like quite anxious. So they want to see you a bit more. So on those, like towards that time or around that time, you'd be willing to see a student who just tries to like email you and says, "Hey, I'm struggling with this, can I come see you?" So then it would be like, sure. But on a random Tuesday, when my consultation is on a Wednesday, you can wait. But around like exam time and sort of those type of periods where students would want to see you, that's when your boundaries can sort of be flexible. That's what I mean by flexible.
Those boundaries.
Those boundaries. But otherwise, your boundaries must be firm.
Yeah.
But I think even then, you always renegotiate your boundaries.
Really? Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you can.
Because, and not renegotiate them to suit the other person, but based on where you are, where you are in your life. So, for example, if a boundary of yours was that you never respond to messages after 5, right? But then you reach a point in your life, in your career, where you sort of work hours that are not as rigid. You can sort of play around with that, but based on your own preferences, not because your boss is now expecting you to answer emails at 8 p.m.
But I think when you have to renegotiate your boundaries, you have to be cool with being the villain. or being like the bad guy or being seen as a bad person in that moment.
Of course, even when you're not renegotiating
Yeah,
your
like you have to be
boundaries,
cool
just
with like
setting boundaries in itself.
No more Mr. Nice Guy.
I think in general, if you're gonna set boundaries, just expect Uguti. The same way you setting a boundary because you don't want people to step on your toes. Expect people, Uguti, if I set this boundary, so and so might not respond positively to it. And that's okay. And that's why you need to be okay with your boundaries. Because the next person might not accept them, but it shouldn't change the nature of your boundary. You know, so boundaries are for you. They're not for the next person. They're for you. They should be comfortable for you. And if the next person is not okay with it, you then have to be okay with them not being okay. Because then it's not on them.
It's not on them, it's on you now.
Thing.
Yeah.
What's your take on sorry to cut you, or you can finish off what you were saying.
No, I was just gonna say, so yeah, in that sense.
What do you think of like people pleasing? And like what causes someone to become like a people pleaser?
Sure. So people pleasing, it's a huge problem in the sense that you never really see yourself do it. And I say this as a recovering people pleaser. No, genuinely, you know, and it comes from wanting to be perceived, or at least in my personal situation, it came from wanting to be perceived a certain way, you know, not wanting people to think you're stuck up, not wanting people to see you as too boundaried or whatever the case is. So a lot of the time it could come from wanting to be perceived a certain way. And it could also be from how people react to you when you are being your true self. You know, if people aren't accepting of who you are, it will sort of corner you into a position where you think you need to change yourself to suit their palate, you know? And that's where the people pleasing can sort of come from. But I think for your own sake, if you are a people pleaser, you do need to decide for yourself to stop. And stopping is also like very scary, especially if you've been a people pleaser for a very long time, because you've created that character for people, you know, that persona that, no, I know if I just call Caleb on a random Sunday to ask for a hangout, he'll be fine because he never has he never says no, or whatever the case is, you know. But then, and because you've allowed that for so long, the day you decide, no, actually I don't feel like hanging out, then it changes who they know Caleb as, and you need to be okay with that. So I think as a people pleaser, you then also need to be okay with the fact that that persona that you've created for people, or the person that you've sort of portrayed yourself to be in the eyes of the people around you, when you sort of take a step back from that, they will perceive you differently, and it might not necessarily be in a way that you like.
Yeah, and it might make you guys cut ties because they like you only because they could use you and do. But I think it can also be an advantage to get into rooms, to network, you know, like.
Tell me more.
In the sense that there's this guy, I'm gonna make an example about this guy. I would say his name. There's this guy, like, we met somewhere at an event, and he was like, oh B, oh I'm such a huge fan, oh B, this, that, you know. But I realized that he's only doing that because he wants something from me, you know. But it made me feel good, like, oh shit, this guy knows me and he knows all this stuff about me. But, you know, he got that close. I even gave him my number, you know, because yeah, but obviously I have my boundaries too, you know. But like, I think it can be an advantage in that way. It
is, actually. I agree with him because I'm also a recovering people pleaser, by the way. So it helps you because now you also become more aware of how people are. And now you know how to like maneuver situations, and like it increases your emotional intelligence because, like you said, you become in different rooms with people that like, okay, so this is how I must behave now. Okay, so this is like you become more aware in terms of like your surroundings and environment and everything.
Yes, but it also gets tiring.
It does get tiring.
Especially if you know, Uguti, you're only doing that so that the next person likes you, or so that the next person accepts you, or so that the next person, you know, values you. But if that's not who you are, it gets tiring because it's literally like putting on a whole like mask.
Yeah.
I feel like, yes, I understand why you would feel the need to do it, because I mean, I did it. But in hindsight, I think it would have been so much better to just come as you are, you know? Because then whatever happens in that relationship, in that friendship, it's based on the fact that it's because of who I am. And if I'm not willing to change who I am, then I'm willing to cut ties, like you said. But if I value the friendship enough or the relationship enough to sort of change parts of myself or to, you know, change a couple of things, then in that sense, yeah. But I would say, at your earliest convenience, stop.
Yeah.
And it's hard, wait, so like it's genuinely hard, because it also means you then have to, you know, accept the fact that you've been lying to yourself. You know, you have to accept the fact that you've been lying about who you are. But I think it can also be such a beautiful journey in the sense that it allows you to also like become one with yourself and also to start making relationships and friendships with people from a stance of, this is who I am. Are you going to accept me as who I am? If not, do I like you enough to change who I am so that we can, you know, remain in contact? And if not, it's okay.
I also think there's like
It's honestly okay.
there's a difference in like people pleasing and like maybe serving people in a sense. And sometimes like
Okay.
there's like a fine line where people get like for example, my mom was a pastor, right?
Okay.
So she obviously had to always put people first. But it was her line of job, you know, it was like her line of industry where she had to like always make sure everyone's fine in the church, the congregants, everything, you know, the family. She was just that person. So some people gather strength from like you, like being a leader in a sense. Someone can say you being a leader is like you being a people pleaser, but like people naturally like rely on you for so much. And it is tiring. It really is tiring. So I understand what you mean, like it's tiring. But sometimes you just have to be that person sometimes. But now, like, that's where you must, like, have, like, boundaries and know, okay, this is just, like, now it's people-pleasing now. Now it's not just me serving or being there for everyone, but just people-pleasing, you know?
I think ultimately it depends on the reason behind the people pleasing or, you know, is it because I'm doing this and I'm serving these people because it also, like, brings meaning to my life and I'm okay with that. That's what I want to do. Or I'm doing it because I think that's what is expected of me. And if you're doing it just because it's expected of you, then you need to sit down with yourself and ask, well, like, do I really just want to do things to make other people happy? But if it really is, this is what I feel like I am here to do. I want to serve. I want to lead. I want to, you know, make things lighter for other people, then sure, do that. But ultimately, it needs to be a decision that you make. I think ultimately, it needs to be a decision that you make. Am I doing it because that's what I want to do, or am I doing it because I think that's what is expected of me to do? And if it's an expectation, then that's where you need to ask yourself, am I willing to live up to it? And if you're not, it's okay to...
Yeah, to just be like, no.
I don't want to. Like, I genuinely don't want to, and that's fine. I think sometimes also with people pleasing, because you become so used to being praised for whatever it is that pleases the other people, you worry that you won't get the same level of praise for being yourself, right? But you'd be surprised. You genuinely would be surprised, and it is like just a step of, I guess, courage. But it's one of those situations where once you take that step, it's fine. You'll be okay.
Well, in my situation,
That wasn't the case.
because it's currently happening. Like, I think being a shy person is in a way being a people pleaser, right? Because you're shy. Being shy is not being yourself. Like you just kind all the time. Even when someone does something messed up to you, you react not in a stern way. Like, no, don't do that. You just react. It's fine. You know what I'm
laugh it
saying?
off.
Young talk. So in my case, like obviously, yeah, I decided to change and be myself. But, the people who care for me are like, no, don't do this, don't do this. But, like, obviously, when they explain why not to do that, I understand. But, like you said, it can be advantageous, right? But, like, in my situation, like, maybe hiding myself, like, all those years was disadvantageous, because like if I was myself, I would know not to do the things maybe I'm doing now, since I'm like, okay, let me just be myself. Because like people are like, no, this, you're not supposed to do that. You know what I'm saying? I think you confused.
Yeah. Just a bit. So you're saying you used to hide yourself, right?
Yeah.
And now that you've decided not to hide yourself, the people who care about you are saying, actually, hide yourself.
Well, when I do a certain thing or say a certain thing, they're like, no.
Are you allowed
don't
to
say
be
that.
like to give practical examples? Or is it too personal?
Okay, let me say that.
Only if you're comfortable.
Yeah. But shout out to,
Wait, don't get yourself in trouble now.
nah, but they know, because they're gonna watch this, so they know,
Okay.
But, my brother and my sister love me,
Of course.
and obviously it's a bad thing. I'm sorry, I'm just making an example, guys. My brother told me, and he explained why. I'll say what he said to me. But like, I always used to say, like, in my intros, it's Bizo the hero, but they ain't saving these hoes because these bitches are that stuck.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? So
Okay.
when my brother told me, he was like, no, don't say that. I was like, why though? Because I feel like that's me. But then he's like, no, that's not you, because I've seen you around women. That's not who you are. You don't treat women like
thoughts.
that. You don't call girls thoughts. You don't disrespect them. You actually very respectful. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, oh, maybe it's because like growing up, I didn't really have like someone to look up to and someone to, teach me that all I had was music, hip hop, and all you hear in hip hop is these bitches, what about these thoughts, So I took that and created a persona off of that, and in my mind, I still thought, oh, that's me, but
Keyword, you created a persona.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that you thought it was you, but wasn't
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
It was you based on the music you were listening to and what you thought being an influential musician or rapper is, and how you want to be perceived, because that's what you saw like all the well-known rappers being like. So it may not have been you. It doesn't sound like it was you.
Nah, no, I understand. That's why I didn't say it like in the beginning, because I would
Yeah.
never say it again,
Yeah.
because I understand.
You know now that
Yeah,
that's not who you are.
It was so
Yeah.
crazy though. Like, it kept on getting shorter each episode. Like his intro.
I'm like, even
Until he was
hearing
like,
you
"Nah, it's
say
just
it,
you."
I was a bit like, Busha, you speak like that? Because I don't know you like that. I think I understand where they were coming from. But even now, Uguti, like, you just put that on because you thought Uguti as a rapper, as a musician, that's who you're supposed to be,
Yeah.
But like you said, it was a persona. So I think in that sense, it doesn't necessarily sound... Sorry, I think I cut you off.
No.
It doesn't necessarily sound like the people in your life are telling you to hide or to not be yourself, but rather to show up as yourself, regardless of whether that will be received well, in this case, in the music industry or whatever the case is.
Yeah, I guess I just thought that way, but until my brother, like,
Explained it.
yeah, I understood from there.
Yeah, and that's the thing, sometimes the people in our lives see us better than we see ourselves.
Yeah.
But because we spend so much time in our heads, we might see what they say as an attack. Like, hey, boy, you don't want me to flourish. You don't want me to, like, be, who I think I am. But ultimately, they might actually be leading you in the right way, which, I mean, you saw for yourself.
Yeah,
Imagine
yeah.
if you started the way. I
You're
don't
gonna
think
be
I
shocked.
would be listening because I don't know you like that. Yeah, but no, guys,
It's-
people pleasing if you can.
Yeah,
And
it's,
you know, it's because I know people will always ask how. I think the first step is always like you need to be sure of who you are, you know, and that's something as simple as sitting with yourself and having that conversation with yourself about who am I, what are my values, what do I value in myself and the world around me, and do I show up as that? And if the answer to that is no, then you know, Uguti, actually, whoever it is I'm showing up as is not my true self. And anytime you show up into the world as not your true self, just know Guti, you're wasting your energy. I mean, and it depends though, you know, because there are situations like, for example, there's like a whole area of research on how introverts struggle in the workplace because in the workplace extroverts are sort of like glorified because they're like more sunny and like, hi, let's get this week started, or whatever the case is. So in that case, someone who is introverted might feel like they have to put on a persona to be extroverted. But then there are people who are arguing that no, actually, even in the workplace, there is space for introverts or people who are more inclined to introversion, you know? So I think it's also based on, like, for yourself, you need to decide, are there situations in my life where I am willing to sort of deviate from who I know myself to be? And if you are okay to do that, sure. But if you're not, it's also okay. So ultimately, it all depends on you making decisions. Like, I feel like everything in our lives, well, for the most part, because obviously there's like social, cultural, and like political stuff that influence the way we do things. But for the most part, a lot of the things that you do, you get to decide whether or not you want to be a part of it or not.
I also feel like as human beings, we all have like the good and the bad in us, and like it's all about like who you choose to like feed more. So obviously, if you like choose to like feed the bad more, you're gonna end up doing like bad stuff. Like the Tabo Pesta, for example, he obviously was like feeding the bad in him and the devil in him. This person was saying do this, and then instead of like the right part and stuff like that. So that's how I feel too.
Yeah, that story, hey. Every day it's something new.
Did you hear about the most recent? Let me actually not say anything.
There's a new guy.
Hey,
who-
you'll catch
There's
cases.
allegedly, allegedly.
Be careful.
We might have to remove this again.
Just be careful.
But what's your take on that story, though?
I don't know, hey. From what I've heard and what I've read, it sounds like Ugel. No, I'd rather not say.
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah. I'd rather not say.
Back to the people pleaser. Like I feel like I was like, and I'm still like confused about who I am. Is that like a common thing, you know?
So yes and no.
Yeah.
If you look at things developmentally, right? You struggle with your identity a lot in like your adolescent years, early adulthood. And that's mainly because you're going through a lot of changes during that time. Changes physiologically, but also changes in terms of like how you assert yourself in your life, you know, making decisions and so on. So yes, because in your life right now, you are still experiencing a lot of changes. But I would also say, I would ask rather, are you struggling to understand who you are, or are you struggling to accept who you are?
I guess it's accept, because I think really, as my brother said, I am a good person, but in my mind, like I try to act like a badass, you know.
Where's this coming from?
Is it your alter ego, maybe?
Probably, yeah, most probably.
What is this alter ego? B.
Yeah, B.
Is B a bad person?
I
I don't think
think
he's a bad person. I think he's just like, I don't know. I think we all have that, bro, actually. 'Cause I don't
Yeah.
think Butle and B are the same person.
Really?
yeah.
Hey, young Really?
But I think also the thing is, being a guy, you know, like you have to be, you know, like a badass, or you're gonna be like pushed around by other guys. You know what I'm saying? That's why like I always put on this badass persona and the bitches thoughts and all of that. Because, you know, if you a soft guy, like other guys will step all over you, you know?
Is that the true case though? Yes, there are situations where that happen, but how often does that happen?
I think all my life, like in cases where I was soft, like it happened. I got stepped all over. But like I have this thing where I'm like, you know, like now I struggle with, because when I was young I used to like bully
Get
niggas,
bullied.
you know.
You used to be the bully.
Yeah, I used to bully. Well, at first I was the bullied, but then I was like, no, like as I said, I have to put on this persona. So I started bullying guys like throughout primary and stuff. Like I was a big bully. I bullied guys. Like when I came in the room, niggas, if they were laughing, they'd be like,
Guys.
She's just so shocked right now. She's like, is this who you really are?
I'm so shocked.
yeah, that's the thing. But like as I grew up, like from, you know, I was bullying like even my best friends, you know, but I was like, no, I don't like being this guy. So as I grew older from high school, like I was like, no, I have to change this because I don't like being the bully. But when you stop being the bully, like they start disrespecting you, coming in your space, and you know what I'm saying? And now you have to prove that no, you can't do this to me, dog. I actually will do this, but I don't like that, you know. But I guess the I don't like that is the real me, you know, because as you know, my brother said, I'm actually a good person, what, you know.
I think, but in that situation alone, so we are sure you started off being the one who was bullied.
Yeah.
And then because of how you experienced being bullied, you decided to take it up a notch and become the bully.
Yeah.
But ultimately you became the bully so that you wouldn't experience being the one who's being bullied, right? So you weren't necessarily a bully because that's what you wanted to do, but because you felt that's the only way you could protect yourself. But I'm sure I would like to think you've, like, since you stopped the bullying, you've grown to realize that there are other ways to protect yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think ultimately that's what usually happens. We tend to fall into the trap of thinking what we know is the only way things are to be done, you know? And because that's all I know, that's all I can do. But once you start exposing yourself and learning other ways of protecting yourself, showing up for yourself, then you realize that you don't have to be the bad bee. You know? But then again, even with that, you do, it takes a while. You know, because I'm sure even you deciding to become the bully, it wasn't like an overnight thing. You know, I'm sure you saw good, if I just
Ish.
add one slap, you know. But I'm sure if you had also decided to like just speak instead of slap, you would have seen Oguti, you know.
True, because that's how you learn, you know, Oguti. You just have to speak about stuff, you know.
But also as a child, because I mean, speaking is actually like higher cognitive level, hey? Because by speaking, I'm
Is everyone fine? Sorry to cut you off.
no, it's fine. I could have a bit more water. By speaking, you're sort of okay. Should I wait?
Turn it on. Good to hear you. It's
Okay.
fine. I hope it's but just carry on.
Okay. I was just saying, Ubuti, well, obviously Buti is speak, and then you'll see that the person will sort of have the same response. But speaking is actually like higher level cognitive skill in the sense that by speaking to you, I'm expecting that you'll understand me, and I am sort of shaping my speech at a level that I think you'll
Understand.
understand and like receive it, right? So to expect a child who's like 12, 11, who has not necessarily limited reasoning ability, but their reasoning is only that of a 11-year-old. To expect them to tell another 11-year-old, Uguti, hey, don't bully me.
Yeah.
They may not understand that.
No, I'm still fine.
So I think that's why even sometimes with like, and this is just to bring it back to like psychology and so on, whatever intervention you sort of bring forth, it needs to be age specific. Like I wouldn't go tell a 10-year-old, would say, tomorrow when you get to school, tell your friend to stop hitting you. Because chances are the other kid will just be like, I don't listen to you, whatever the case is. At that age, it would probably be best to like involve a teacher or, you know, even with the child.
That
like,
doesn't work.
No, but like, well, in a perfect world.
I'm gonna call you a snitch. He's a snitch.
But I think involve a teacher in the sense that, you know, the teacher, obviously, I think even the bully respects the teacher, right? Because the teacher is like an adult figure.
Well, they're scared of the teacher. They don't really respect.
Okay, true. But ultimately, in that case, we'll go with them.
But doesn't... Okay,
fearing
that's
the
also
teacher.
another topic too, though. Fear and respect.
I think it's different.
Yeah.
I think sometimes it is respect also.
Because with
Sometimes.
me, that's why I don't like being a bully. Because I hate when niggas are scared of me. Like, you know, like... People are not themselves when they're scared of you. Obviously, as a bully, you think it's respect. But it's fear. Like... Yes, they'll respect your boundaries, but that's only because they're scared of you. Like they know if they mess with you, you're gonna mess them up, you know.
But it ends up being respect though eventually, I think. So I don't know.
What do you guys think respect is? Like, how do you define?
I think it's morals. Like, you know, like I think it's taught, kind of, you know. Like you grow up being taught respect, and you know, like not to do certain stuff, not because you get a hiding or whatever, but like you know that's you wouldn't like that being done to you. You know what I'm saying? That's what I think it is. I don't know.
Honoring someone else's boundaries, I guess, also. And like you, but okay, that's why I'm saying it's a bit tricky because now, obviously, when someone instills fear in you, eventually you are going to respect them. But I don't know. It's
But that's
tricky.
because you fear them.
Yeah, but also maybe if... but what about God, for example?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
You won't do certain things because you fear God, right?
Yeah.
And you respect him too. But obviously you do fuck up sometimes, but you still like come back and like apologize and...
Okay.
So it's...
Okay, yeah, that example, yeah.
Okay.
So I guess I have
But
to be
I
the bully.
I think with just piggybacking on this fear and respect thing, I think they can coexist. But I don't think it's like ideal to respect someone only because you fear them. Because then that takes away your autonomy and free will, you know, because I think ultimately respect is a choice. I choose to respect you because I see the type of person you are and that deserves respect in my eyes, right? But I don't want to respect you because I'm scared that if I speak to Caleb out of tone, he'll like whack me or whatever the case is. So yes, they can coexist, but I think ideally you wouldn't want a situation where you respect someone just because you fear them, because then it's just it's predetermined for you, you know, like because you fear me, you'll respect me. Whereas I'm choosing to respect you because I honor who you are, what you like resemble. It's like the decision.
Yeah.
I think we downplay how much choice we have as human beings, you know, how much power we have to decide things for ourselves. Of course, considering other things like, you know, economics and social cultural stuff, politics and all of that. But ultimately, a lot of the things we do depend on decisions that we make, you know. And and how willing you are to make certain decisions. Because I think sometimes, even in situations where we realize that we can make decisions, we're scared. We're scared that the consequences of that decision may not be favorable for other people. And then if you're a people pleaser, then of course you will make it. You will make that decision.
I think also most men, or patriarchy again, were taught to like, for people to fear. For you to be respected, they have to fear you first. So that's why even like, you get like that family, wherever you are, like, yeah, you can't mess with those people. Like, that specific type of family, like. So I think for most men, we want people to like respect us. And I think the only way most patriarchy has taught us is to like get people to fear you. That's the only way. But you're right when you're like, it should be a choice. You should respect me because of like who I am and not like be scared that I'm gonna hit you or whatever, So
And
yeah.
I think even with that, with patriarchy and, sort of seeing fear as respect, I think that's why it's also so important to change these narratives. That's why we need
These
men
conversations.
like you to, change those perceptions of men. And not just for the sake of that's what is needed, but because you genuinely do believe, Uguti, there's more to a man than being quote unquote a monster or being head of home or whatever the case is. I think we also need men to sort of step up and make us believe that they are good people. Because like you said, society we don't see that a lot. And I think men downplay the amount of power they have in changing that narrative. So yeah, I think definitely a lot of things depend on decisions that people make.
Ironic, that you like a lecturer at Rhodes, because we were at Rhodes once. Oh, by the way, guys, she's my sister's friend. So that's how I know her. We were at Rhodes once to go watch Mpomi, and it was so awkward there. Like, it was so weird, like the place, And okay, I don't wanna I don't wanna put you in the bed.
Okay.
But like we were like, yo, this place is, so awkward. Like, how is it going back there though?
I was telling Caleb earlier that like being in a place, especially because also like Makanda is quite small, it's a small town.
Yeah.
Being there as a visitor, yes, it had like its awkwardness.
Yeah.
But you're there for a couple of days, so it's exciting. It's like, oh, this place is so small. Oh, they only have a KFC. Oh,
Yeah.
So you see those things when you visit, but they don't sort of you don't like internalize them because you're just there as a visitor. And then being there as now a resident or like someone who stays there like full time, it was quite different and challenging because I come from, yes, I grew up Kotsakane, which is like a township, but we have a mall.
Wow.
Shout out to
genuinely. We have a mall and our mall has McDonald's at the very least. So for me, it just like in terms of how Makanda is sort of structured.
Is it called Makanda?
It's called Makanda.
Wakanda forever.
Just how it's structured, like geographically, it's very different from what I was used to. So I think I struggled a bit with like the adjustment. I was telling him I struggled quite a bit with adjusting into like the small town living and so on. But I think now I'm at a place where I actually appreciate it for what it is. I've sort of found my community of people there. Also still learning the place, but I think I've sort of figured out which parts of like Makanda are my places.
Yeah.
So I think now I'm much more settled than I was when I initially arrived. And I know like people might think, but that's usually how adjustment works. But I feel like it was way more, like I've lived away from home in the sense that I moved from home to Pretoria when I was studying.
Yeah.
And yes, I did sort of have an adjustment, issue for like the first couple of months, but then you get over it.
Yeah,
Whereas when I moved there, it was much longer.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that I've gone past that phase now. Yeah. So I think now, yeah, I like Makanda.
Yeah.
I do. I genuinely like it.
Can I ask you something? What do you do for fun?
For fun.
Yeah, like when you've got free time and you're not lecturing, not working on your dissertation, or when you just like have free time, what do you do for fun?
I go out. I love food. So I always go out for like a nice meal. I take walks. I take walks. I like now that I'm that side, I go to the beach. That's another thing. There's not a lot of like recreational things to do that side. But you're surrounded by a lot of like nature, which I'm quite enjoying. So I take a lot of walks. I go on game drives. I like just go out for like lunch, brunch.
With friends and stuff.
I do. I have
Trying out new places.
There's not much.
There's not much. There's no
But
McDonald's.
there's quite a number of neighboring towns. So
okay.
you end up taking like a day trip,
Like
like
PE.
to like PE, Port Alfred. So that's also quite fun. But other than that, I am also naturally like a homebody though. So a lot of the things I do at home. So like I'll read, I'll watch stuff. I love reality TV. So I watch a lot of like Real Housewives and all of that stuff. But yeah, for me, that's fun. What do you guys do for fun?
Ask him.
Why me?
What do you do for
Party
fun?
in the man.
I take walks a lot too.
The fact that your tone changed, you are lying.
No,
What do you do?
I'm into sports a lot. So I play indoor with friends. I go out a lot also.
Like clubbing,
Not necessarily clubbing, but like
like groove.
groove every now and then. But yeah,
Okay, and
I'm like a social being.
that's the extrovert.
That's
in you.
extrovert in me. Yeah, I'm a
Okay.
social being.
Like here in the East End.
Yeah. Also like maybe outside of the East End, maybe like Joburg, Pretoria.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's nice. I think things like that are nice when you have people to do them with.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
your
yeah,
people
yeah.
to do them with. I wouldn't just wake up and decide to go to the club
Yeah, I don't like going to
because
the club
I'm
either.
not surrounded by. Firstly, I'm not that person, but I'm also just not surrounded by people who do that.
I can't see you as a person. That's why I wanted to know.
Wait,
Yeah, like
you'll
you-
be shocked.
Can't see on the couches there, bro. In the section with the hubblies and everything.
I'm joking. I'm not that person.
Yeah.
What do you do for fun?
Me, yeah, from now and then I'm your Puma, But most of the time for fun, I don't really have that much fun. But I think mostly it's because, I'm still on the come up trying to put my life together, and most of the time I'm broke as shit. So like I can't really go out, but yeah,
But
when I
your
can, I
music,
do.
Isn't that fun for you?
I don't make that much music anymore,
Really?
Like the podcast that like now is in front of everything, That's what I do mostly. But I do still make music, and yeah, basically I don't have that much fun because like I like games like PlayStation, FIFA, but like I don't have that, so I don't really have that much fun. There's no time for fun in my life right now.
Yes, I was about to say, you know how everyone is in an era?
Yeah.
Are you in your like grinding era?
Yeah, straight up.
Quiet boy era.
Straight up.
Okay, and that's valid.
Yeah.
That's valid. I was gonna say, when you were talking about making music, I remember every time I would come and visit Umpumi,
Yeah.
you would always be recording.
Yeah. That's what I always did,
Yeah.
But I had to.
Roots.
Yeah. I still do it. I will still do it. That's still my passion. But yeah.
I think you're really great at it.
For
so
real.
I would hate to see you stop.
What's your favorite song? I'm playing.
I actually have one. So I think I was at UP. I don't know the name of the song. There's a song you released, and in it, I don't know if I can say this on here.
What?
But it was, you spoke about like your relationship with your dad. in the
Oh,
song. I
yeah.
can't remember
It's
the
cool.
name of
It's
the
cool.
song.
It's cool.
Yes,
It's cool, yeah.
that's my favorite song.
No, shut up.
Bushla, what do you take me for? You think I would know you for like a while and not know your music? So that's my favorite song.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
But just to like go back to what you guys were saying about having fun, it's so interesting to see Uguti, like the older you grow, like, you know how when you were young you had hobbies?
Yeah.
Do you guys have hobbies?
I'm not as consistent as I am with my hobbies anymore.
I'm in an era where I'm trying to rediscover my hobbies. I have my one friend, her current thing is like building puzzles. And I'm just like, okay, I can't do that. But I'm just like, I wanna like try find a hobby now.
A constructive hobby.
It doesn't even have to be constructive.
Really?
Like just something that I do to de-stress, and like I don't have to make money out of it, just for fun. I think that's what I'm trying to like.
I always
find
wanted
right
to
now.
like go to like karate, jiu-jitsu lessons.
So, me
Nice.
too, actually.
Yeah, I actually want to do that.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think you should do it.
Yeah, I think I will actually.
You should do it. I'm sure there are karate studios.
But now the problem is I'm gonna like want to like try out what I learned on people.
Okay.
Gonna be the bully.
I'm joking. I'm just joking. I'm joking.
Yeah.
Remember,
That's how what?
remember, your hobby is for you, not for you to like kickbox people.
No, I won't go around looking for fights, but I'll obviously be like
On the lookout
on the lookout
in case
in
someone
case
slips.
anything happens. G.
No, I'm really like trying to find a hobby. So if you guys have any suggestions, I'm open.
Hobby.
You don't have to tell me now, but if you
Yeah.
find
Yeah,
something,
no, there is quite a few hobbies you can do.
But you friends with Bumi, I'm sure she has like a lot of hobbies.
So Mpumi and I like very different things, and I'm sure you
Yeah,
know this
yeah.
by
I
now.
know this. I know this.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's very like creative, and I'm very like, I mean, I'd like to think I am a bit creative, but I'm not as creative as her.
Yeah.
So for her, like, you know how she did drama and stuff, I would never be able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can go watch. That I'll do freely. I'll do that freely, but I don't have that many hobbies. Yeah.
Alright.
Are you and her? Was she the only person you're close with from high school, like friends?
No, I was close with her and Bassie. So I don't know if you know Bassie.
Yeah, yeah. I know
Yeah,
this.
her and Bassie. They were like my two people. But then I had like relationships with other people as well. Yeah.
But they were like your day ones.
Yeah, Bassie and I, funny enough, Bassie and I went to UP together, but when we were there, we hardly saw each other. We'd always see each other when we're back this side.
You guys were friends.
We'd see each other when we're back this side. Bumi and I obviously also would see each other when we're this side.
Yeah.
Because she was in Grahamstown or Makanda. But yeah, they were like my two people. But I don't think I had like a beef with anyone in high school. I was friends with
I can't imagine you in a conflict. How did you like handle conflict?
I used to be very conflict aversive. Like I would avoid conflict.
Yeah,
That's
I can
where
tell.
the people pleasing.
You can tell.
Just to make sure that no one fights you. Be
Yeah,
quiet.
yeah. Quiet.
But now, I just try to communicate. It's not always easy, but I just try to communicate. I'm also very like slow to try and resolve things. So right now, if you do something to me right now, I probably wouldn't say anything like in the moment, but maybe like a while later, once I've processed and like actually know how that made me feel, I'll probably hit you up and say, hey, I actually didn't like what you said then, hey, or I'll send you a text, whatever the case is. Doesn't always work though, because some people like, if I step on your toe now, you want to talk about it now.
Now,
yeah.
Whereas for me, I'm very much, okay, you stepped on my toe, I took note of it. I know I didn't like it, but I'm not ready to deal with it. Maybe when I get home and my toe starts hurting, I'll remember, it's because Butle stepped on my toe.
Yeah.
Let me actually tell Butle, by the way, my toe hurts because of you.
Yeah.
So how would you react? Like if you're in a queue and someone pushes in, would you keep quiet?
No. So it depends on the situation. But I'll probably like make a joke of it. Actually, recently I was walking out of the library on campus. And so usually on a Sunday, I was at the library on a Sunday. They close at 5, right? And then there's like a 24-hour section. So I was working my way to the 24-hour section. But everyone goes there because they're not ready to leave. Yabo? So, but because it gets full, people are like very, like, jajarak about it.
Yeah.
So I was at the turnstile about to put my card, and then I'm assuming she's a student. She walks in front of me. And I'm like, how girl, just like that. So that was my way of telling her, Guti, I will. You're in my way. But I know some people would have been like, I will, don't, I'm not that person. I don't think I've ever been that person.
Which is good. I think it's a great trait, actually. When you're slow to anger.
Yeah.
So I'm not necessarily slow to anger. I'm just slow to react.
Slow to react. Yeah, when you don't react instantly.
Yeah, like if you do something that makes me angry, you'll know.
But when you keep it inside, it kills you though. That's the thing.
I think for me, I wouldn't necessarily say it kills me. I'm just very slow to articulate how I feel. I always have been, and I want to come to you knowing what I'm saying to you. And I feel like in that moment, I also get the sense that I feel things too extremely. So I feel like because I'm so angry, I'll probably I don't know, I would regret whatever it is I would say in that moment. So I just choose to remove myself. But I'll probably say, Guti, can we talk about this later or whatever the case is, if you can clearly see, Guti, I'm angry.
Yeah.
But trust me, I am angry when I'm angry.
Is it always a shock to some people? Like, how? I thought I forgot about that.
It is.
And then you're like, how? You are angry, Ganti.
Yes. So that's the part. That's why it doesn't always work in my favor, because for some people, especially people who are used to getting away with things, they'll do something to hurt you, knowing very well that they're doing something to hurt you, but because you're not saying anything in that moment, they'll think you've forgotten about it. And then Maubuya to say, by the way, I didn't like that. Then now they're angry at the fact that you took long to come and say, Uguti, you were hurt.
The thing is about those people, they know, Uguti, you won't say anything. So that's why they actually do that thing. You know what I'm saying?
But then that's why they get shocked when you do come back and you're like, actually, I didn't like that.
Yeah.
But then again, you do it based on the people, how you know the people around you. So, for example, if someone that I really don't care much about makes me angry, I probably won't even go back and call them or text them, But for example, if a close friend of mine does something that I feel like is a bit shady, then I would take it upon myself to sort of reach out again. So I guess it also depends on how much you value that person or that relationship. Because there are some people that have hurt me and I'm just there's no point. They're genuine, or in my eyes, there's no point. So it depends on your how you value that person or that relationship. Yeah. Do you guys tell people immediately?
Nah, we're literally the same. You don't react immediately.
Is that why you want to do karate?
Nah. Wow, that's a good one. I see what you did there. The thing is, with me, sometimes when I'm highly intoxicated, I'll react instantly. But generally, I'm not a confrontational person. I try to avoid confrontation, which is also bad. Because sometimes, obviously, things will pile up and then,
And then it's
when it comes out, it's
a
a lot. It's all built up.
It's all built up.
And it's but I thought we were cool.
Yeah, or I just stepped on your toe. Not other things, you know what I'm saying? So.
But I think Curry's way is the best. Because when you react now, it's just the same as it's also gonna come out very toxic. But when you let it go, Curry, and then you say, I wanna speak about later, I want to speak about what you just did later, you know what I'm saying?
But I think it also, because there are some people who deal with things in the moment and they do it well.
Yeah.
So I think it also just depends on
the tone.
Definitely.
Definitely
tone. But I think also how quick you are with sort of processing your feelings and your thoughts and your emotions, Some people take a while, and that's fine, hey? Because I used to struggle with it. I always used to think, Uguti, oh my gosh, then that means I struggle with expressing myself or whatever. But it just takes me longer, and that's okay. Whereas for some people, like in the moment, they know how they're feeling, they know what they're thinking, and they're able to tell you, and that's also okay. So I think it just depends on the type of person that you are. But I think with both sides, there is a chance that the other person might not be at the same level
Yeah.
as you are. And that's when you sort of need to like negotiate whether I'm willing to wait or I'm willing to just let it go or whatever the case is.
So there's different types of psychology. Now, did you mention which one?
Yes, so I did counseling psychology.
Oh, okay.
So in South Africa, we have clinical psychology, counseling, educational. Recently, they've just allowed people who did neuropsych to register as neuropsychologists. And we also have research psychologists.
Okay.
So those are the types of psychologists we have. And then we also have registered counselors, social workers. So I always make sure that people know that mental health practitioners or mental health care is not only the work of a psychologist. Because then you are limiting yourself in terms of who you can reach out to for like psychological services. But yeah, we do have different types of psychologists.
Is there like a ranking, a certain ranking between them?
No, so there is no ranking. It just depends on your scope of not okay, I don't want to use scope of practice, scope of profession, because we don't speak of that anymore. But it basically just depends on the nature of psychological challenges, distress, and so on that you deal with. So, for example, with your clinical psychologists, they are most likely to work with more severe cases of mental illness, whereas with your counseling psychologists, they were like most likely to work with mild to moderate. With your educational psychologists, they are more likely to work in educational settings or neurological cases related to neurological disorders. And with your research psychologists, they are most likely to work in like research and so on related to psychology. So that's sort of how the categories work. But right now, how things are is that what you are trained in is what you offer. So you can be a clinical psychologist working in an educational setting. You can be an educational psychologist working with mild to moderate severity because that's what you've been trained in. So right now, we go based off what you've been trained to do. Yeah. So ultimately, yes, there are different categories, and the different categories tend to focus on different or specific areas of psychology. But right now, in terms of the HPCSA, you are allowed to offer services that you have been trained to offer. Yeah. So, for example, with me, I trained, I did counseling psychology training, but during my internship, I did work in schools, which traditionally you would think as an educational psychologist sort of area of practice, but that's not the case. So I could work in a school setting.
Yeah.
So it really just depends on what you've been trained to do. But I would say with each category, it has like areas of practice that are more like traditional for it. So for example, with us counseling, it's mild to moderate, and we deal a lot with like prevention of mental illness and remediation. So your primary and secondary interventions, whereas your clinicals would be more tertiary. So that's like your psychiatric hospitals and so on. So it really just it the category guides your practice, but your training basically tells you what you can do,
Yeah.
what you can and can't do.
I was also wanted to know, sorry, with being a counseling psychologist, does your reputation play a lot? Also, like in terms of like you can't do certain things because of how you're like, I don't know, like your clients are gonna see you in a sense.
So it does. It does, but not in a bad way. So for example, for us, because you are, so I think to a certain extent it does. because you are the tool, right? You like how your clients see you is how they see the service that you're offering. So if they see you like drinking all the time, they might start questioning whether you're like sober during sessions, whatever the case is. So yes, it does, but I think also we speak a lot about congruence or showing up as, you know, who you really are, even in session with your clients, so that they see like it also like fosters that connection that you have with them.
Yeah.
So I think when your clients also see you as a human being, it also normalizes their experiences. So yes, you do have to pay attention to how you present yourself out there, in the sense that you don't want to give your clients the perception that you aren't professional, essentially. But also you don't want to hide yourself to such an extent that they see you as this perfect person, because once that happens, then they also may feel the pressure to come into therapy as perfect people. And the reason why you're coming to therapy in the first place is because you realize that you're not a perfect person. You know, not necessarily that you are a broken person, but you realize that there are things in your life that require a bit of attention, or whatever the case is. And if my presence is going to make you feel like you need to be perfect, then that already defeats the whole purpose. So yes and no. You do, I mean, yes, like any other profession, you want to be seen as professional, but you also don't want your clients to see you as like a person that, superior, and someone that they can't connect with. And I think even for myself, like I would hate for someone to walk into session and think that I have all the answers to their life, because I don't. I don't even have all the answers to my own life. That's why, like, even with us, we are in therapy, you know? So for that, like, reason, you wouldn't want to put on too much of an appearance, but you do want to be perceived as professional, of course.
So
Are
like,
you guys allowed to go through like midlife crisis? Midlife crisis.
Oh, it's a midlife crisis.
Everyone, you know what a midlife crisis is like. I don't know, like when you just like are going through it, and
I mean, ultimately, you are still a human being, but the biggest thing is that you don't want to cause harm to your clients. So if you are going through a midlife crisis, I think it would make more sense to maybe pause being a practitioner and attend to your midlife crisis, rather than take that. And I'm not saying, Uguti, whenever you as a practitioner are going through things, you can't offer certain services, but ultimately you would have to sort of decide, Uguti, is it going to be beneficial to my clients, or is it going to cause harm? And if it's going to cause harm, then rather just take some time to focus on yourself. And I think that's like advisable. That's what we're told. Like, if you are going through something that is going to interfere with the level of service that you offer, then rather just take some time and then come back when you feel ready. Yeah. But it's like, sorry, like, I'm sure there are, let's say, for example, an accountant who's going through like a bad financial year. It doesn't necessarily mean, Uguti, they're going to stop their job, right? In the same way, like if you are a practitioner going through your own mental health challenges, it doesn't necessarily mean that you now stop offering services. But what you do need to do is obviously seek help, make sure that you are also taking care of yourself. The same way I would like to think with the accountants, they would go to like, I don't know, a financial advisor or whatever the case is. So yeah, it's pretty much the same.
So like, counseling psychologist is basically like helping someone with their trauma and stuff.
Not just trauma, but that can be an aspect of it.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you help people maneuver adjustments in life, because ultimately a lot of mental health distress comes from changes in our lives and how we adapt to those changes. So you help people adapting to the changes in their lives. You help people with self-awareness. A lot of therapy is really just helping your clients gain self-awareness into themselves, into the way they think, into the ways they think, and into the ways or why they engage in certain behaviors. So self-awareness is also a part of it. Yes, you may find that someone has experienced trauma, then you help them sort of regulate the way they think or feel in relation to that trauma. But it's not just trauma, essentially. It just has to do with help giving people space to navigate life, whether it is trauma or a breakup or scholastic issues or family problems or interpersonal or managing conflict, whatever the case is.
So that's basically the same as a therapist, or is there a difference?
So as a psychologist, you are a therapist in the sense that you engage in psychotherapy, but you're not just a therapist. You also do psychometric assessments. You also do research if that's what you want to do. So therapy is just a part of your job as a psychologist. It's not your entire job.
So they don't do the same courses as like a psychologist would do, like therapist, or it's the same thing.
So in South Africa, it's different because a social worker can be a therapist.
Okay.
A counselor can be a therapist. A psychologist can be a therapist. Someone who does an NLT, neuro-linguistics training or something, they can be a therapist. So therapy is not just, it doesn't just relate to psychological therapy. So you can be a therapist but not be a psychologist. Okay. But as a psychologist, therapy is one of the things you do. Ultimately. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense.
Yeah. So yes, you can do coaching or therapy courses and you can be a therapist, but you won't necessarily be a psychologist.
Yeah.
Whereas if you are a psychologist, you can do therapy, but you also do assessment and workshops and other things. Yeah. Okay. So I don't want to do the whole ranking thing because we don't do that.
But you're going to have a PhD soon, so that's probably a high rank.
The PhD is just academic. Yes, it's a PhD in psychology, but I'm just... Because the thing with the PhD is like it's very specific. It's like a very specific area. So you can have for example, my PhD is looking at academic resilience, but that's all you look at, whereas psychology is very vast. So just because I have a PhD in psychology, my PhD is in academic resilience.
Is that your topic?
Yeah, so I'm looking at the academic resilience of first generation students.
That sounds very interesting.
Yeah, so basically looking at what are the factors that help first generation students to succeed in university. But I'm doing it on a case study. So I'm using a case study on the 9/10 mentorship program, which is basically a program that is focused on making access available to students from previously disadvantaged backgrounds. Yeah.
So would you say that a child who comes from a disadvantaged background is more academically successful than someone who comes from a silver spoon type of situation?
I wouldn't necessarily say they would perform more greatly academically, but I think in both cases, whether you grew up quite privileged or disadvantaged, there are factors in each of those contexts that contribute to your academic success, whether it is thriving academically or doing badly academically. So again, it depends on the context and what it offers to help with your academics or to deteriorate your academics.
But statistically, the ones who are more disadvantaged have more drive, probably, than like.
You could say that, and there is some research that does show that because of their backgrounds, they do find themselves in situations where they are a bit more driven because there's a bit more pressure to do well. And again, this is on those studies, right? It's not all disadvantaged.
Yeah, guys,
people.
don't be offended, please.
That it's not all, but equally, there's also research that shows that learners who come from privileged backgrounds or who went to well-resourced schools do well because of those resources, or because they have role models in their lives who show them what academic success can do for you. That also ends up becoming their motivation. So you might find that they have the same levels of motivation, but they are motivated by different things. So it's not necessarily to say that one is more motivated than the other. It's just that maybe what motivates them is quite different.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But again, I think it just goes back to context. What is it in your context that
Drives you,
influences
influences
that?
you.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting topic, though. Academic resilience.
I actually am glad I stuck to it, because that's another thing with doing a PhD. You need to be very sure about your topic, and the topic I've chosen, I think, is something. Firstly, because with research, yes, you have an interest in a certain area of research, or whatever the case is, but I think with this, because I am a first gen, so for me it was also like something like close to my heart. So I think that in itself, like in terms of like helping me stick through the course, it will help.
Yeah, no, you have to be very resilient to get to PhD level, bro.
Yeah, that's my PhD. But like I said, I'm only in my first year of PhD, so it's still very early stages.
It's like 3 years, 3 years.
3 years. Very early stages, but I'm excited for it.
All the best. I wish you, nothing but success in the future.
Thank you.
And hopefully next time we see you, you'll be doctor.
Amen. I will not receive that.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks,
So
guys.
like I'm a big supporter of Arsenal, right?
Okay.
So
Which
let's
one is
say
Arsenal? The red one.
yeah.
Okay.
They like at the top of the league right now, but like
They're not
if
gonna
Man
win,
City
though.
wins the next 2 matches, we're not gonna be at the top. We're gonna finish second.
Okay.
So my thing is with them, like they're at the top of the league, but they're struggling with confidence. So let's say like they hired you, right, as a
Okay.
psychologist, counseling psychologist, to like try change, because it's something mentally they're struggling with, because they're already good, like they're at the top of the league, so like let's say they hired you, what would you say to them?
Because now I must be a motivational speaker.
That's motivational speaking.
It's not motivational speaking, but there is actually, it's not a category in psychology, but there is sports psychology, where they do study things like motivation, hardiness, resilience as well, pushing through and all of that. So that would be something you'd ask someone like that.
Yeah.
But I think with motivation, you have to I think we strive towards things that are attractive to us. So maybe they've gotten comfortable being number one.
You think
or being
so?
where they are. I don't know. I don't watch football.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but I don't think I can speak to that.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, what makes you think it's because they lack motivation?
Not motivation, I think they lack
confidence.
confidence. Yeah, like because okay, I'm gonna make a different example with maybe boxers, or like MMA fighters. There's this fighter, Israel Adesanya, right? He was facing a guy called Alex Pereira. So this guy, before they were in MMA, they did kickboxing. This guy beat him 3 times at kickboxing, like maybe 10 years ago. So he beat him like 3 times in his life. Oh, twice. And then Israel left there and went to MMA, and then Alex stayed there and kept kicking guys' asses, and then Israel in MMA became a champ, and then Alex came
To MMA.
to MMA, and he kicked Israel's ass again for the third time. So he kicked his ass 3 times, but then they fought again, and then Israel won.
Is it that fight where he did that celebration?
Yeah, like
when his son was like, his son wasn't there. I think I saw it. Yeah.
So with that, this Israel, obviously mentally, he had to forget that he got beat 3 times. You know what I'm saying? So he had to be on a certain level mentally. But like, if he wasn't, he'd obviously lose that fight again. You know what I'm saying? So I think obviously he'd maybe need some help from like a psychologist or something, you know, like to get his mind in the right
like
place.
that mental shift.
Yeah, a shift.
I guess that is something that does help. But in terms of like the specifics of it, I think someone who did sports psychology would probably be, or even because I know a lot of people who do like coaching, they focus a lot on like mind shifts, you know, and so on. So it would have to take someone who's in that area of practice. But it's interesting that you've made that conclusion though. That's the thing about people who watch sports. You guys know these people? Like you know them like this. What if maybe it was just the thing of I'm gonna train harder? And that's why he beat him. And not because he changed his mind. But it's a valid point.
It's a valid point.
It's a valid point.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Any more questions, Kalibo?
No, I know it's been an amazing episode, yo.
Yeah.
Very eye-opening.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Very different to the ones we've had, and I think we should have more people like you now moving forward.
Yeah, it's very like adults would watch this, you know. Like,
Not you guys classifying me with the adults. I'm young, please. I'm a baby.
If you're a baby, what are we then?
I'm a baby. Pick it in, please.
So one last question. You're not gonna ask your question?
No, I'm good. I'm good for now.
Alright. So, if you were in hospital, right, on your dying bed, and the doctor said you only have 24 hours to live, what would you do? Like he's discharging you to go live your life for this last 24 hours.
At the end of those 24 hours, I die.
Yeah.
I would... Whatever I do, it would have to involve my family. So I'd probably take them with me on like a trip. Just spend the day with them, soaking up love. So have like an outing with my family, my friends, just people I hold dear to my heart, and just spend that last day with them. Yeah, I don't really have like a bucket list where I'm like, I mean, I am very open to adventure, but it's not like I have like that one thing that I want to do, you know? But I know for a fact, one thing I always cherish and one thing I always want and look forward to is just spending time with people that I love. And I'm actually getting emotional about it. But I always like look forward to that. Just like connecting. I genuinely like enjoy like connecting and like, you know that feeling where it feels like your hearts are like doing this? I love that feeling. So I would want my whole day to just be that, like just having conversation, laughs, and just being silly, like. Yeah.
Dope.
I know that feeling. The feeling where you kind of feel like this is what I'm alive for. Like this is why I'm
like
here.
Nothing else matters.
Yeah.
Nothing else matters but just you and your people and just. Yeah, like it's like a warm feeling. So I'd want that to be like the last thing I want. And I think that would be a nice way to transition into whatever lies on the other side.
Yeah, because you eased into it.
Yeah. But that's ultimately it.
Alright.
Thank you for coming through, yo.
Yeah, yo.
This was amazing. Like
Thanks,
I said again.
guys.
Yeah, thank you for the free session.
Counseling therapy.
Wow, thank you guys. I enjoyed this. Thank you. It was nice to chat with you guys as well. And I think from me also, I wish you guys all the best with your podcast. podcast. Okalibo was saying, not me calling you with your nickname now.
Yeah.
Caleb was saying, Uguti, like what inspired the podcast was, you know, having conversations, yes, but also like giving, not necessarily the giving people flowers, yes, that's part of it, but bringing a spotlight on people, like ordinary people.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly what this has done, because even with the episodes that I've watched, watching people that I've sort of like seen, whether it's at high school or whatever, and like seeing them in a different light. And that's exactly what this has done. And I think, you know, I should definitely continue with that. You know, it helps to get to know people like that.
And I think it's ironic that it's called the Elusive podcast, because elusive basically means evading capture, and we capturing people who are like not in the spotlight. So it's like, it's crazy how things come
Just
together.
double entendre.
Yeah.
I think you guys must keep at it.
Shout out. Thank you, Kari.
Thanks, guys.
Peace out. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, like, comment.
Do all those things. Share with your friends.
Yeah. Bye bye.
We out.
Fuck a Uber, we out.
Does that look again?
You shock me. You and shocking me.